Fatherhood isn't easy, but in Autismland, it's a journey like no other. Join Mark DeGrasse as we explore the highs, lows, and everything in between of raising children on the autism spectrum. With real stories, practical advice, and a touch of humor, we're here to navigate this unique journey together. For dads navigating life on the autism spectrum, you're not alone.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark DeGrasse. Welcome to the Dads and Autismland podcast, where we talk to dads about their journey with autism and raising their kiddos. So today I have actually a dad I've known for a bit. He's another father who has his kids at the Central Texas Autism Center, where we've had great success. And so I love talking to other dads that are going through the same type of journey as me, because it's easy to relate to. But I'm hoping that everybody, kind of learns more about what it's like to raise multiple autism kids, which Davon House, our guest today, is doing right now. He has two kids. It's Isaiah and Titus. They're both 8 years old. Pretty severe talk, but only have a few words. And so it's, again, really similar to what my experience has been, which is super helpful to connect with other dads that are going through the same thing. So welcome, Davon.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so before this, we kind of talked about some of the things you're doing specifically. Yeah, we could just launch into it because what you said was super interesting to me. But you're trying the stem cell therapy. You want to kind of just explain what that is and why you chose to kind of go down that route?
Yeah, so the to make kind of story short, actually a year ago from February 1st, I was in hospital and I got very sick, almost died or whatnot. And at 3 months I was in hospital, my twins were, I guess, missing their dad, and so the structure just went off the radar, right? Because they're very routine type kids. And I get out the hospital, I get better, but when I get home, I realize they're not in the same room no more, and they're fighting all the time, constantly. We can't drive in the same car anymore. The bus rides to school are impossible. That doesn't happen anymore. We had to take two separate cars, and I'm like, man, I can't. I gotta find some type of help, right? We've tried medication before, but they sniff and taste everything. So we know that wasn't gonna be able to work. So just. And then the Facebook, searches and TikTok searches to figure out like answers or what people are trying to do to figure out, to help their kids. And saw something called stem cell. And me as a professional athlete, I've heard of stem cells, but not in a way to be used for autistic kids. And did a little research in it and found people that did it, and contacted them, and they gave me some brief information about it. And we took a trip to Mexico. Fortunately, it's not used here in the States for kids on the spectrum. A few years ago, they did have I believe, a case study at Duke University, but we had to have their own placenta, and we didn't keep ours, so we're too late for that study. So we had to go overseas for this. So we ended up going to Mexico. I was there at Panama City. Mexico was a little bit cheaper. For my two kids, so we took that route and didn't know what to expect. But my thought process and thinking of things like, I'm not going to just sit back and not do nothing, and it's always worth a try. To me, paper. Money is just paper. But yes, it's a very expensive tool for us, but I can make it back somehow. And but I can't get 5-6 years back with my kids if this can make them better. So we went in. Within 3 weeks of talking to someone about this, and getting this done, it was very quick. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. The facility we went to was very clean. We took it as a mini 3-day vacation to Mexico with the boys, which was tough. The toughest part was traveling there with them.
Cool.
But since then, it's been since December around 6, I believe it was. Isaiah has way more words. He's yelling at French fries, which he loves French fries from P. Terry's. He's yelling. He's always saying like, let's race, like race, because he wants to run around and chase. He'll say throw me, or try to say throw me, because he wants me to throw him on the beanbag or whatnot. He's been saying grandma a lot lately, but and it's obviously it's not as clear as we say it, but we can hear him trying to say grandma, and he's pointing a lot more. which is I mean things like this. I'm like, man, I say to myself, right, was it just good timing, you know, or is this actually working, right? Um, Isaiah was in regular school this year, and then we decided to put him back into CTAC. And when he got into CTAC, like he started to just blossom. But that's around the same time we went to did the stem cell, right? And obviously he enjoys CTAC so much, it's almost like a second home. And there's times where he doesn't even want to leave CTAC to come home because he enjoys it up there so much, right? And the his therapists there are like, man, he's just talking so much, he's pointing so much, he's just having so much fun there. So I mean, so far it's been everything that I can ever wish for, right? Is it going to cure him? No. But is it making life a little bit more easier? Yes, right. It's awesome to hear him trying to communicate, and I would never thought to hear this. My oldest son, who's 10, we were doing. He's yelling, "Chase me, chase me, chase me!" Right. So we're chasing and we're chasing, and Levon comes sits down, and he's like out of breath, race tired, right? And I'm like, I can't chase him. My back's hurt, right? So then I'm like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And he walks to Levon, and he's sitting there, he like babbles something like in his own words, I guess. And he yells, looks at it and goes, chase me, chase me. And then I'm like, Levon, you always wanted your brothers to go talk. You need to go do what he's asking now. So they took a couple more laps, and then I had to force him to stop because he doesn't, since he can get what he wants now with the little bit of communication he has, he's nonstop with it, which is it's what we ask for, right? Just to make their life a little bit easier, right? Hopefully one day we can have this type of conversation with them, but I would be happy just communicate your wants and needs, son, and life would be great.
Man, that's huge. I mean, and I do think it makes a huge difference. But you touched on a whole bunch of things there, just with autism fatherhood. Where number one, you had surgery. I'm guessing, did you get injured from playing, or what was
Yeah,
the?
yeah, from football. Yeah, so it was an old injury that just had to get done.
Yeah, well, and with the autistic kids, when the structure changes, like it can go through a drastic thing. And we saw that actually before we started at CTAC, we saw that with its aides at the school that he was at, where it was like he was a certain way, and then after I think it was like a few weeks of just one person, his entire attitude changed, and it went from like this is manageable to like, oh my gosh, we have to do something different, otherwise I don't know how we're going to handle this anymore. So I totally understand how found the stem cells and started looking because right now I was saying before the show, like, we're comfortable. So even though we had looked into the stem cells like 5, 8 years ago, once we were kind of like in that routine, then we were like, okay, well, this is a good solution now. But I think as autism dads, we got to be flexible and not be afraid to shift. So that's really cool that you guys took that step and you got an awesome result. I mean, having an increase in words, like even when Damien accidentally sounds like he says words, we're like, yeah, like he's trying to sing "Let It Go" from Frozen
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
So now I can imagine that's just like that's a huge win for you guys and the interaction with your other son. I mean, that's enormous too. Like, we actually last night, my son had my Declan, our non-autistic son, had a project due, and so he printed out all these pictures, like made this poster board. And as soon as he went to bed, Damien grabbed it and tore off all the pictures and ate them. Like he chewed them up into a ball. And he was just, and he did it all quiet too. It was a sneaky thing, but we kind of look at it now and we're like, that was him trying to interact with his brother or just be a
Uh-huh.
jerk, you know?
Yeah, either or. Either or. Either or. Yeah.
But it's cool to see them, just trying to interact. And I think that's what we're always looking for is just some kind of gain where it's like, oh, yes, something we did had some effect. So just as, you kind of described it, but like, how did that make you feel in terms of just the journey so far in terms of that step?
Um, like it feels good, right? It feels good. We've came a long way from talking, to us feeling like they were normal to to getting the diagnosis, right? To moving to Austin, to finding CTAC, to figuring out speech, figuring out trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and I guess there is no right answer, right? Like some therapies work for some kids, some therapies don't work for other kids. It seems we've tried the dairy free, gluten free. We've done it all, right? And now and I would say all of it has helped to us to get to where we are today, right? If it wasn't for some of the speech, they wouldn't be right. If it wasn't for the stem cells or the Nate therapy or all the things we've done, we wouldn't be where we're at today. Um, so I mean, it's just embracing the journey. I look at it. You know, any step forward is a good step. I look at it. The steps backwards is learning experiences, right? We got to be more demanding with the twins, right? More loving, more like, hey, he's trying to communicate with you. Like he's not pulling your hair for no reason, right? He's not biting you right now, right? I noticed with my twins, like yesterday, Isaiah was having a big fit with Titus because Titus was stemming out loud, and Isaiah hates it. And so he tries to attack everyone because he wants us to tell him to stop, right? And Isaiah, obviously, Titus is not going to just stop. So instead of, I used to be like, Isaiah, Titus, Isaiah, stop. You gotta stop. Now it's like, I realize I'm gonna just talk to you. Like, hey, Isaiah, it's okay, buddy. Like, we can't do nothing around about it. He's gonna stem. And obviously, Isaiah's not responding back and saying, Daddy, I understand, but Daddy have him stop, right? But I'm still going to talk to him like he's like my oldest son, like, hey, it's okay, buddy. Like, come upstairs, leave him alone, right? And then eventually he'll come upstairs, like crying and like sobbing in tears. I'm like, hey, I told you, leave him alone. Come on, let's go, buddy. And like the last 4 months, instead of me treating him like he's autistic, I've been treating him like he's my neurotypical son, right? Um, I've always felt close to him, but I feel like he feels closer to me now. Like he feels like, oh, Daddy understands me now. Where he's crying and he'll grab my hand, right? Or he's crying, I'll grab his hand. And I said, let's come here, let's go lay down. Or come here, let's just go to the room and go to our space. And I'll push him in his swing, something that he likes to do and something that he joins to do. And I feel like he knows, oh, Daddy has my back, right? Like he enjoys car rides to go get P. Terry's fries or whatnot. So we get home from our car ride that, once again, the boys can't, it's very hard for them to drive together. So we buckle him up, strap him in, locks, whatnot. And we get home, he's screaming, he's crying. I'm in my car. He hops in my car because my wife brought him home. He hops in my car. He's crying. He first thing he goes, French fry, right? Because he knows that we're gonna go on a ride. I was like, okay, let's go. So we go cruise for 30 minutes, come back, brand new, like nothing happened. We go up to his room and we just hang out, right? But I feel like I'm closer with my boys now, the way I talk to them, and just the journey to where we're at, man. I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of them for what they've done.
Man, that's huge. It's funny because you kind of forget about these steps, but I think I went through the same thing with Damien, where it was kind of like I would just kind of appease him, like, okay, he's happy, he's settled, whatever. But I wasn't really treating him like I treated my other son, who's non-autistic. And then eventually, I just gave up on it. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk to him like he can talk, and I think he did respond just like what you're saying, where it's like, oh, I don't know what you're saying, but I like that you're talking to me like you talk to everybody else. And so a lot of times it's kind of me talking to myself because I'll be describing things and just like, hey, we're going over here and here's what we're going to do.
Exactly.
Should we get that one or should we get that one? And kind of include him in the decision making process, even though I don't know how much he gets from that, but it's been fantastic. And the hanging out, I think that's another thing that you could not think about, where it's like, oh, they're not responding like a typical kid would. Maybe they don't appreciate my attention, and so that could be kind of a deterrent as a dad. But no, the more I've kind of given it, the more, I've had the same thing where he drags me over to, we have like a room with a couch set up, and he'll like sit me down on the couch, and then we won't do anything. Like I'll just be hanging out and he'll be watching his TV or whatever, but he still enjoys it. So I think that's a huge step, and I'm glad that you guys kind of figured that out. You did mention something that we've noticed too, where it's like some of the autistic kids have zero tolerance for other autistic kids, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's like, hey, if anybody should understand this, it should be you. But could you kind of describe like what did that start, like that was always like that, or after after that, 3-month period, then they just stopped liking each other? Or do you think it was like an age thing?
No, I think it's a little bit of everything, right? I think it's a little bit right because I try to think about I put myself in their shoes, right? When I was 8, I hated my brothers, right? And I'm like, maybe this could be it, right? Like, even though you're not talking to me right now, let me try to be in your shoes when I'm 8. Like, okay, I didn't really enjoy my brother. Right, I didn't really enjoy being around him like that. Like now, there is times we would hang out, right? But our communication, we would play the game together. But then I would be upset that you beat me, so then I would try to hit you and beat you up, right? Um, Now, I think a lot of stems comes from Titus's new stem. Now, Titus's new stem is almost like a yell, right? And it's like nonstop, and it's loud, and I hate it. And Isaiah hates it. So whenever he gets around, he thinks he's about to stem, and he instantly covers his eye, even his ear, even when he's not stemming. So I think it comes from there. But then there's times where right where we'll lock them outside in the backyard, and then because once again, they don't want to be in the same vicinity. So I lock them outside the backyard and I'll go out there and then I'll just run around a trampoline one time and then one will follow me and then the other one will follow the other one. And then it's like now we're playing together. Uh, so it makes me think, right, like you guys don't mind playing with each other. It just you guys get very annoyed with each other very, very fast. For some odd reason. But I think it's because it's the STEM. But no, they enjoy their time with other autistic people, from what I
Oh, good.
hear. School, yeah. It's just they just don't like each other, and I think it's more because of the STEM, though.
Mm. Well, that's a good point too, though, that they are siblings. I grew up with a sister that was 2 years older and a brother that was 2 years younger, and we never got along. Like it
Mm.
was just chaos constantly. And so we do kind of remember that with, especially our, Declan, the neurotypical son, like, hey, this is his sibling. But he does that, kind of like your older son. He says that sometimes where it's like, oh, I wish, I could just play with a sibling. And
Mhm.
he's really good with like the siblings of his friends. Like he'll definitely try to include them, which I think is good too, because it's like, hey, you could still apply this to everybody. It's not just with your brother. Of course, now we're finding that it's kind of funny with that whole homework incident, and we were kind of worried about Declan because we're like, man, is he going to be really angry about this? Like, we fixed it and talked to the teacher and everything, so it was fine. But yeah, I was like, I don't know how he's going to handle this, but he took it with really good stride and he kind of laughed about it. Like, I can't believe he ate my homework. Like, how's that
Yeah.
happen? And
Well,
so
well, back in the day, we used to say our dog ate it. Now he can say, "Oh, my brother ate it."
my brother ate. Oh, I
You
can turn it in. My brother. It's there's
know?
some perks with
Yeah, for
autism,
sure.
brother.
There's like, I mean, one of the best perks we have, right? Um, we don't park too far because the boys are autistic, so we got handicap placards, which they need because they're loopers. So
Mm.
I mean, as soon as we get out the car, they're running, which is scary. But the best perk is when we go to Six Flags, they get to get in front of the line in Disney. So Levon enjoys that part of it. So I'm like, hey, like having autistic brothers isn't all bad now.
No, that's a great point too. I think last time we went to Disneyland, it was the same thing, and he's like, "Oh, great!" And then he, drags him around. I'm like, that's super fun. Let's talk about kind of preparing because I know you mentioned you had an injury, and one of the things that I kind of train for. I don't have any injuries, but I know my son is going to be way bigger than me. Like he's already on like the 95th percentile, and my dad is like 6'4", 300 pound football player, rugby player in college. And so I'm kind of training for like, how do I stay fit enough to keep up with my son? Because if anybody's going to be able to, or have to control him in public, it has to be me. And so now I'm kind of working towards that. Do you have any kind of training that you're doing for, well, your injuries, of course, but, just in general to be physically prepared?
Physically, yeah. I mean, I work out 3 times a week, and it's more of treatment because of my hips, right, and physical too, right. But I mean, I think the same thing, right? I have two of them, right, and I mean, just like your son, I'm pretty sure he's very crazy strong. I don't know
Yep.
how strong they get so strong, right? It's scary. But I say to myself, man, eventually they're gonna be bigger than me, but hopefully I can establish dominance now, right? Where it's like, hey, voice of, hey, stop it now, right? And and they know when dad's upset, right?
Mm.
Because I change my tone, and they'll come here, or when mommy's talking to them, they're not listening. I say, and I'll say, hey, Titus, go to bed, or Titus, go to your room now, and they'll run to the room, right? They might laugh about it because they know, daddy's coming, but they're listening. So hopefully, not just my presence, but my voice can slow them down.
Oh no, that's a great point too. And I think, well, I think we all have that, even if you're neurotypical, like when dad's mad and you're like, okay, I need to not push it any further and hope he calms down at this point. And so I have that same like, oh, I'm gonna get my mad voice. And then, like sometimes he'll come out of the room at night, like you put him down, and then like an hour and a half later he like sneaks out and he's like looking around for the remotes, and I'm like, Damien, get in bed. And he'll run back in bed and I'll act mad, and I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, I just hope he stays in here so I can go to bed.
Yes.
But no, that's a great point. Like kind of establishing like, okay, here's the thing. And I think that comes back to kind of what we do all the time, which is it's that structure. Like here's the structure. When this happens, here's what's going to happen next if, whatever happens next. So I think that's just good fatherhooding or whatever you want to call it. Just for the other dads out there, do you have any tips you've kind of, because I know like two, I can't even picture that. Any tips for managing the situation, but not just with your autistic kiddos, but also your marriage and the rest of the family.
Yeah, man. I think the best thing I did, right, and the advice I could give to other people is to embrace it. The more you fight it, the harder it's going to be. Like, yes, it's unfortunate. Yes, we got the look of the draw, right? Some of my people say we are blessed, right? However you want to spin it, right? Just embrace it, okay? Um, and okay, now how can you make things easier for everyone, right?
Mm.
Like, I know that, and as a dad, you got to just be more aware. Okay, mom's been doing a great job, right? Let me take over this a handful of times so that she can have her break, right? Hey, yes, man. Luckily I've been blessed where okay, I'm gonna hire an extra set of hands so I can get the baby, the nanny or the grandma or whoever we have helping us, give her a break because so now she can come back fresh in a couple hours, right? Um, Even with my oldest son, like, all right, I got to give you a little bit more attention because I'm giving too much attention to the twins, at times. Um, the biggest thing is just, like I said, just embrace it, right? Love it, right? And just to continue growth. We in football we call it continuous growth, right? Never being satisfied where we're at, right? And always looking to improve. Um, if that's doing research, if that's trying to find meals that the boys can eat if they don't eat all the time, activities the boys can do outside if they don't do things all the time outside all the time. Um, and the cool thing about man, the twins, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, man. They're just so smart and they surprise you so many ways. We have a little scooter thing in the front yard that I'm telling myself my boys will never learn how to ride a bike, right? But there's a little toy my oldest son plays with, and youngest one saw the oldest play with it all the time, and now he's on the bike thing, riding it and pushing it, and like he's like going around the cars with it, like stopping instantly with it. And I'm like, I would never thought you would be able to do this, right? But he surprises me all the time. So yeah.
No, that's great. And I think that, great advice in terms of like, yeah, enjoy it. It's different. It's not what you expected it to be, but there are, some blessings in it. And, I think it's neat how you incorporate your older son with it too, because it helps him. And I think, like our son Declan, he's so empathetic with like little kids and special needs people. And I'm like, that's a huge benefit because I never had that exposure growing up. And it took me having an autistic son to learn that kind of empathy. And so I think it is huge, and enjoying the wins, the scooter thing. I can attest to that because I never thought, Damien would be somebody like riding around on a scooter. And now he'll get in this mode where he's just like, that's all he does during the day at home. He'll just be like sitting in the living room and they'll come cruising by. And you're like, man, that's some balance there. And just the way he controls it, I'm like, man, that's better than I would probably do with that. So, just looking for those things where it's like, awesome and shocking.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
I
like, I
mean,
mean, to your point, like the little ones, there's so many little ones when we sit down and think about it, like right now, like the scooter thing is like, dang, you that's a win right there, right? The little ones we have daily with the twins and the things that they surprise us, the eye contact, right?
mm,
Them laughing at a part of a show that they should laugh at. It's like, hold on, that wasn't a coincidence. You actually thought that was funny that was on the TV, right? Things like that we might be like, all right, he's just laughing again. It's like, no, if you really pay attention, it's like, all right, oh, you're laughing at this part of the movie, like, oh, this part might be funny to you. um and speaking of Declan, Levon is like, we get these notes maybe once a month from his teachers. Like, Levon is such a good gentleman. He's a no sir, yes sir, no sir kid. The way he walks around the school and he's helping kids, and he's like helping the teacher, and like, there's kids that are, the naughty kids that he say, he's always telling, hey, we got to pay attention. Well, the only reason why Levon is like that, not just because we brought it up the correct way, but we've brought Levon up like, hey, we are not going to be here forever. Unfortunately, you're going to have to protect your brothers one day,
mm,
and we won't be able to protect them, right? And the real world is not going to be all peaches and cream. Like, you look at your brother, they might look normal until they start acting like themselves. And then, right, people are going to stare, people are going to talk, right? And it's going to be your job to protect them, right? So I mean, we're raising a good young man, right? And I'm not saying only because our boys are autistic, but mainly because our boys are autistic. And Lamont is big on doing things right, right? Knowing what's right from wrong, protecting others, not just his brothers, right? Um, and I mean, when he's 16, 18, 25, 32, he's going to be a good human being.
oh man, that is such an awesome point. And it's funny how similar, Levon sounds to Declan, because he's the same way. And we do tell him the same thing, because we're like, hey, it's, we have some other family members, and we have, things that would happen if we weren't here. But at the end of the day, we're kind of like, ideally it would be you to
Mhm.
handle this situation, and we'll give you all the support we can to make sure you're capable of doing that. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to, it's like, that's his decision. It's his life, and we'll facilitate that too. But ideally, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
You're preparing him,
Yes.
and making him understand the responsibility, and that's not such a it's not a burden, and that's how I try to look at Damien now too, where he's not a burden. He's just a different type of person, and it's kind of a blessing to have the opportunity and responsibility to be the one to be like, hey, here's this difficult situation that a lot of people may run from. And instead of doing that, you're like, no, we're figuring this out, and we're doing our best, and we love our kids for who they are. So awesome job there.
Yes, yeah, appreciate it. The only thing that's tough is he's an athlete, so it's hard for him to have turn that switch off and on. For example, like, he'll hit a kid in the baseball field, or he'll knock a kid over in the basketball court, and the first thing he'll do is try to help the kid up, or try to see if he's okay. It's like, son, like, good job, but like, we're competing right now, right? Like, he's not on your team. Like, you're not supposed to help him out. He's like, well, daddy, like, he's hurt, or daddy, I knocked him down. It's like, yeah, good job, son, but like, but it's funny though.
No, it is. Well, and that is the other side, is like when you do have siblings. Like, I remember fighting with my brother constantly. Like, that's how I learned how to punch shoulders, is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
like, or tackle, or do the regular kid stuff. So I could see how that would be a balance. Like, all right, I need you to be aggressive here,
Mhm.
and you'll be okay. Declan, he's pretty nonviolent, but he's definitely competitive. And he got that from his mom, because I'm like, you know, doing your job, like, that's pretty
Do your
good.
job.
But
And mom's
he's like,
like,
no,
kill
sir.
him, kill
Oh
him.
my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's definitely that. And so I'm like, it's good. It's a good balance there, because
good
I'm like a
balance. Yeah,
pacifist.
yeah.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Love your story. Your family's awesome. We love seeing you guys at SeaTac, and hearing that you guys are still pursuing those other avenues for growth, and that they're potentially working. It's hard to say, like, was it this, was it that? Is he just getting older? But I think the fact that you're still pushing is fantastic. So nice work there.
Yeah, appreciate it. As I'm pretty sure you do the same thing. You would do anything for your kids, especially the ones that are struggling a little bit, right? And I think that with my twins, it's hard to sit back and just be okay with anything, even if even with my oldest son, like if he's struggling in math, I'm not gonna just sit there and just be okay with it. I want what's best for all my kids. So I'm excited for the twins' growth. I'm excited to embrace the struggle, and excited for to continue to grow and put smiles on everyone's faces.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you're doing that, and it sounds like a really good family, and you got the support there, and you're moving forward, and that's fantastic, and enjoying it too. And I think that could be the hard part sometimes, where you're like, oh my gosh, especially when you're going through that transition that you mentioned at the beginning, where it was like it was very difficult and worse than it was before, but you push through, and it sounds like it's going great, and you'll probably figure out the whole, they not being able to ride in the same car at the same time, which is I can't imagine how much effort that takes. Now you got three
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them to
yeah.
drive
No,
around.
yeah, it's a circus. It's a circus right now. But I'm pretty sure 6 months from now we'll look back and be like, oh, man, I'm glad like the boys are doing this now, right? I'm glad they're playing together. It's just that we're just in the middle of the storm right now, and we're gonna balance it. And it's my job as a father, right, to maintain the storm, right, to make sure the storm doesn't knock down all four walls of this house. And I'm gonna do that, and I'm excited to see what it looks like outside the storm.
Well, I think you'll get there. And even if there's more storms, whatever, we deal with that kind of stuff all the time. It's a
Yeah,
cycle, And I think once you realize that, you're like, hey, whatever, we're in the down part right now. It'll go
yeah,
back up. So
yeah.
great outlook. Really like that.
Yeah, as a father, I'm up to it. What's
You
next?
are. You're doing it. Yeah, bring it on. I think that I've only recently come to that where I'm like, whatever, bring it on. Like, oh, something more difficult? Fine.
Yeah,
It's whatever. We've done this a billion times. We'll do it again. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely have you on back again. I think we're just kind of ramping up right now, but connecting with other dads like you has just been amazing. And it's for me, I'm just like, man, it's so nice not to feel alone and to know that here's what these other dads are doing to be successful at fatherhood, and also just understand that there's other struggles. Like maybe your thing isn't that bad. You hate to say that, like, oh, somebody has it worse than you, but really hearing it, you're kind of like, yeah, there's things that are good here. So thanks again.
yep, no problem, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for listening. This has been the Dads in Autismland podcast, where we talk everything fatherhood and raising our autistic kids. So for more content like this, please subscribe.